Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive.
Today should be fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. Today we're diving into something quite profound, a really timeless spiritual concept, the virtue of certitude. And we're looking at it through the lens of the incredibly insightful Baha'i writings. We've got this amazing collection of sacred texts, some really insightful explanations.
It really is a remarkable set of sources. I mean, the depth there, the beauty, it's quite undeniable.
It really is.
So our mission, if you like, for this deep dive is, well, not just to sort of unearth what certitude means,
Right.
but to really try and grasp its transformative power. And then the crucial part, explore how these ancient insights, which feel surprisingly timely, actually,
They really do.
how they can provide a kind of anchor, you know, something to enrich our modern lives. It's about getting beyond just knowing stuff to really understanding it on a deeper level.
That's such a critical distinction right from the start. And, what jumps out immediately from these sources is that this isn't about blind belief. Not at all.
Not in the slightest.
Far from it. The material suggests certitude is something, much more dynamic, deeply rooted, and experientially grounded. It's not just agreeing with some ideas.
Right.
So, okay, let's unpack this. What exactly is certitude, according to these Baha'i writings? Defining certitude more than just belief. Let's start with foundational understanding right from the material, because it immediately sort of challenges our usual assumptions about certainty.
Okay.
There's this introductory passage from the divine gift of certitude. It sets the stage beautifully. It defines certitude as a deep and unwavering certainty in the truths revealed by God through his manifestations.
Okay, deep and unwavering.
But here's the key bit, the clarification.
Right.
It immediately says it's not blind faith.
Right, there it is.
Instead, it's a powerful conviction grounded in evidence, spiritual insight, and transformative experience. That's a pretty significant redefinition of faith, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It completely reframes it. And understanding that reframing is, I think, fundamental to getting this concept.
Yeah.
When it says not blind faith,
Yeah.
it's directly tackling that common idea, isn't it? That faith means believing without proof, or maybe just, inheriting your beliefs.
Right, just accepting it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But these sources, they present certitude as this conviction grounded in evidence, spiritual insight, and transformative experience. That implies, very active engagement, doesn't it? A personal search, validation through how you actually live.
So the evidence isn't just scientific data.
Well, not solely, though rational thought is definitely valued. But the evidence here also includes spiritual proofs, like the consistency, the coherence, the sheer impact of these divine teachings on people in history. And spiritual insight. That speaks to that intuitive understanding, doesn't it? Something that goes beyond just ticking boxes intellectually. It's that aha moment when something just clicks deep down.
I know that feeling.
Right. And then transformative experience. That means this certainty isn't just in your head. It actually changes you, your behavior, your outlook, your character.
So it has to manifest.
Precisely.
Yeah.
For anyone who really values understanding things thoroughly, who looks for those aha moments, this definition makes certitude really appealing because it connects belief directly to lived reality, to actual spiritual growth. It's not just abstract doctrine.
It makes faith feel less like a static thing you just have.
Exactly. It becomes an ongoing journey, discovery, personal verification. So the real insight here isn't just believing because someone told you to. It's about a personal, verifiable path that actually transforms your life and how you see everything.
That distinction really does change the whole landscape. And it's not just about what certitude is, but also what it does for you, right? The sources immediately highlight these incredible protective qualities, they say. Through certitude, we are shielded from doubt, strengthened in adversity, and empowered to be beacons of truth and guidance. Those are, they're pretty compelling promises, especially today.
They really are. And it's worth digging into what each of those actually means in practice, being shielded from doubt.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you never have a question, or a moment of feeling unsure.
Right, that wouldn't be human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It means that when doubts do come up, intellectual ones, emotional struggles, those big existential questions, your core conviction gives you this inner stability. It stops you from being completely adrift.
Like an anchor in a storm.
Precisely. Like a deep anchor. You feel the waves, sure, but you're not swept away. It gives you this foundational resilience against all the conflicting information and opinions we're bombarded with constantly. Think of it like a solid internal compass when everything outside is spinning.
That makes sense. And strengthened in adversity.
Yeah, that speaks directly to courage, doesn't it? Perseverance. When you're facing tough challenges, setbacks, maybe even big societal problems.
Which we see a lot of.
Right. A person with certitude has this inner resolve that doesn't easily shake. They can tap into something deeper, spiritually. Maybe understanding that trials have a purpose, part of a better picture, that there's a wisdom behind things.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine someone facing, say, a serious illness or a major loss. Grief and pain are natural, of course. But certitude might give them the inner strength to navigate that time with resilience, with purpose, maybe even a sense of peace, instead of just falling into despair or bitterness. They might see it as a process, something that refines the soul.
Okay, I see.
And finally, being empowered to be beacons of truth and guidance. That suggests it shows on the outside, right?
An outward effect.
Yeah. When you're deeply certain of something true, you speak and act with conviction, with clarity. You become a kind of stable point for others in a chaotic world. You can share insights, offer direction, not arrogantly, but from that deep, well-founded inner knowing.
So your actions align with your beliefs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that consistency itself becomes a powerful living example for others. That's so important in a world where people are looking for reliable sources of wisdom, isn't it?
Definitely. That's a really comprehensive vision of its impact. And, the sources provide an even more formal definition, really drilling down into how you get there.
Oh, okay.
From meaning and significance of certitude, it says, define certitude, engaging in the process of establishing certainty and truth about God and his manifestations. So it's a process.
Engaging in the process.
Includes understanding and recognizing the Creator and his messengers, eliminating any doubt from the mind and heart of the seeker. So it's clearly not passive. It's an active engagement.
It absolutely is. Dynamic, active engagement. That phrase, engaging in the process of establishing certainty and truth, that's totally key. It shows certitude isn't something you just get passively.
Right. It's not handed to you.
No. It's an active, ongoing, spiritual and intellectual journey. It takes effort, exploration, constantly seeking deeper understanding. It implies that real certainty is built up diligently through searching, reflecting, asking tough questions.
And what are we establishing certainty about? It mentions God and his manifestations.
Right. Understanding and recognizing the Creator and his messengers. In the Baha'i view, these manifestations of God are like divine educators for humanity figures like Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, the Bab, and Bahá'u'lláh.
Okay.
So there's a relational aspect. It's not just abstract ideas. It's about a connection to the divine. And to those divine reveals itself through in different eras.
And the outcome, eliminating doubt from the mind and heart.
That's profound, isn't it? We can kind of distinguish between, say, intellectual doubt, a genuine question your mind wants to resolve.
Like a puzzle piece missing.
Exactly. And then there's that deeper existential doubt, uncertainty about meaning, reality itself. Certitude, as it's described here, aims to address both.
So it's not about ignoring questions.
Not at all. It's about resolving them through spiritual insight and that transformative experience we talked about, leading to this deep inner peace, a conviction that settles not just your mind, but your heart too, your whole emotional and spiritual landscape.
Like a scientist testing a hypothesis over and over.
That's a good analogy. The certainty builds with consistent, verifiable results in your own life and understanding.
Okay, so it's a dynamic process, not just a state you arrive at and stay in. And as we go deeper, the sources reveal something really fascinating. Certitude isn't just one thing. It's a journey with different stages, like levels. Abdu'l-Bahá, he's a central figure. Baha'u'llah's son, he says in his tablet on stations of faith and certitude. The station of assurance is above that of faith, and the truth of certitude transcendeth the knowledge of certitude.
Wow, okay. A hierarchy.
Yeah, it's like there are different levels of this certainty, each one deeper.
That hierarchy is really fascinating.
Yeah.
It speaks to that deepening journey of understanding and experience. Let's try and break that down.
Okay.
Faith often implies, acceptance. Believing in something you haven't fully seen or understood yet, maybe based on an initial feeling or what someone trustworthy said.
Right, the starting point for many.
Then assurance is described as being above that of faith. Assurance suggests something stronger, more settled. Confidence that comes from maybe repeated experience or a more rounded understanding. It's a deeper trust, more inner stability.
Okay, faith, then assurance.
Now, when we get to knowledge of certitude versus truth of certitude, this is where the experience part becomes absolutely central.
How so?
Well, knowledge of certitude could be like understanding something intellectually, conceptually. Say, reading a detailed book about fire. You know its properties, its heat, its light. You have the knowledge of it.
You know about it.
Exactly. But the truth of certitude goes beyond that. It's about experiencing that truth directly, becoming one with it almost, using the fire analogy again. It's not just knowing about fire, it's feeling its heat, being warmed by it, maybe even metaphorically being consumed by its essence.
Wow, so it's lived, not just learned.
Precisely. You haven't just read the map, you've climbed the mountain. It implies this profound transformative union with the truth. It's not outside you anymore. It's an internal, lived reality.
Yeah.
Spiritual realization, not just intellectual understanding.
So how do you move between these stations, from knowledge to truth?
Well, the sources suggest it's through that persistent seeking we talked about, through purification, and through integrating these truths into your actual character and actions.
And the outcome of reaching that highest level, the truth of certitude.
The promise is becoming the embodiment of endless bounties.
Embodiment of endless bounties. What does that look like?
It suggests that this deep state doesn't just stay inside you. It overflows. It manifests as positive qualities, abilities, virtues that enrich your life and the lives of everyone around you. You basically become a living channel for divine grace, wisdom, love, resilience, service, all flowing through you. The path to certitude, cultivating the inner state of a true seeker.
That's a beautiful vision of what certitude can become, this dynamic force that lifts you up and impacts the world. So that brings us to the really practical question, doesn't it? What does this mean for us? How do we actually start this journey?
Yeah, the how-to.
And the writings definitely don't leave us hanging. They detail this quite rigorous inner preparation for anyone who wants to be a true seeker.
Yeah.
Bahá'u'lláh, in the Kitab-i-Quran, which is often called the Book of Certitude, gives these powerful instructions. He says, "When a true seeker determineth to take the step of search in the path leading to the knowledge of the Ancient of Days, he must," ready for this? "Cleanse and purify his heart, purge his breast, sanctify his soul, put his trust in God, renounce the peoples of the earth." That sounds like a lot of inner work.
It is monumental, no doubt, but it's also a very systematic, profound way to approach spiritual transformation. Let's try and unpack those instructions, because they're not just poetic, right? They're practical steps for creating the inner conditions you need for certitude.
Okay, break it down. Cleanse and purify his heart.
So the heart here usually means the center of emotions, intentions, understanding. Cleansing it means freeing it from negativity, envy, malice, pride, being too attached to worldly stuff.
Getting rid of the inner clutter.
Exactly. Then purge his breast. That implies removing prejudice, rigid thinking, any preconceived ideas that block you from seeing truth clearly. Letting go of biases you might not even know you have. And sanctify his soul. That's about elevating your whole being. Aligning it with purity, spiritual virtues, those divine qualities. It's a deep psychological and spiritual discipline to remove all the inner veils that stop us seeing clearly.
And what about renounce the peoples of the earth? That sounds quite extreme, maybe isolating.
It can sound startling, yeah. But it's crucial to understand it's not about becoming a hermit or hating people.
Right.
It means detaching yourself from the dominant opinions, the passing trends, the superficial values, the temporary traditions of society that can lead you away from universal truth.
So not being swayed by peer pressure or popular opinion.
Exactly that. It's about seeking truth independently, with a clear mind and heart, not just going along with the crowd, trusting in God rather than the shifting sands of human consensus. It's about intellectual and spiritual independence.
Especially relevant today with social media and constant opinions.
Absolutely. It's less about moving to a cave and more about developing a filter for all the noise that doesn't help your search for truth. These steps together create that inner receptivity, the spiritual readiness to actually recognize deeper truths when you encounter them, so you can hear the call of the Ancient of Days God.
That clarification is so important. It's about discernment, not withdrawal. And building on that idea of inner freedom, the writings stress detachment and humility so much. Baha'u'lláh continues in the Kitab-i-Quran, "No man shall attain the shores of the ocean of true understanding except he be detached from all that is in heaven and on earth. He must never seek to exalt himself above anyone." Which feels almost countercultural, doesn't it? We often value self-assertion, being proud of what we know.
It is a kind of inverted logic compared to the world, but it's incredibly effective for spiritual growth. Detachment here isn't apathy or not caring. It means freedom. Freedom from anything that clings to your soul and clouds your perception, not just material things, but also ego, self-importance, even being too attached to your own brilliant ideas or knowledge.
So letting go of needing to be right, maybe.
Yeah. If you're too attached to what you already think you know, you can't truly receive new, higher truths. You have to make space. So, detached from all that is in heaven and on earth means being free from the limits of the material world and even the limits of human thinking and traditions.
And why is humility so essential? Never seek to exalt himself above anyone.
Because the moment you think you're superior, you create a barrier. Arrogance closes the mind and heart. True understanding needs openness, a willingness to learn from anywhere, recognizing your own limitations.
If you think you know it all,
You can't be taught, can you? And you probably can't truly empathize either. Humility keeps you receptive to divine guidance, stops pride from messing with your judgment or twisting how you see things.
and for someone feeling that information overload we mentioned,
Detachment is huge. It helps you sort through the noise, figure out what really matters, and free yourself from distractions that stop deep reflection. It's about focusing on essential truths, not getting swept away by every bit of data. It makes you a much more effective, discerning seeker.
that's a powerful call for real intention in your inner life, and that intention extends right out to how you communicate. The Kitab-i-Arkan gives this striking warning about something we do all the time, just talking.
Yes.
It says, "Cling unto patience and resignation, observe silence, and refrain from idle talk. For the tongue is a smoldering fire, and excess of speech a deadly poison." Wow. That highlights the incredible power and potential danger of words.
It's a powerful part of spiritual discipline, isn't it?
Sure.
And often overlooked, especially now with constant communication everywhere. The danger of excess of speech and idle talk is how they scatter our focus, drain our spiritual energy, and can even create negativity, judgment, division.
Gossip, pointless arguments.
Exactly. When we get caught up in that, our minds get cluttered. Our attention gets pulled away from what's meaningful. It makes it really hard to find that inner clarity needed for true understanding.
So silence isn't just quiet.
No, it's an active inner state, stillness, reflection, deep listening. It's a space where you can hear your own conscience better, hear the spirit, hear those subtle truths that get drowned out otherwise. It allows for deeper processing, thinking things through.
You just have to think about how much negativity spreads through idle talk, especially online.
Precisely. A cloud's judgment creates conflict, stops real reflection. That analogy, the tongue is a smoldering fire, excess speech a deadly poison, it really shows the destructive potential of thoughtless words. They can ignite fights, burn relationships, do lasting damage.
So cultivating certitude means being really mindful of speech.
Absolutely. Making sure our words are constructive, truthful, and bring us closer to reality, not pull us away.
So it's not just about what you don't do or what you don't say. It's very much about what you do actively. The path is deeply tied to ethics and how you interact with others.
Yes.
Baha'u'lláh is clear. He should succor the dispossessed, forgive the sinful, and he elaborates. He should succor the dispossessed and never withhold his favor from the destitute, nor promise that which he doth not fulfill. With all his heart should the seeker avoid fellowship with evildoers and pray for the remission of their sins. This is way beyond just thinking nice thoughts. It's about lived morality.
Absolutely. You shows unequivocally that certitude isn't just some passive internal thing. It's tied directly to ethical action and compassionate engagement with the world.
So these actions help you gain certitude.
They're integral to the process. When you succor the dispossessed, help the needy, you're actively living out compassion and generosity. That breaks down your ego, fosters connection, aligns you with divine attributes like love and mercy. It opens your heart.
And forgiveness. Forgive the sinful.
Such a powerful act of spiritual liberation. It frees you primarily from resentment and negativity that cloud your perception, and promising only what you fulfill that's about integrity, trustworthiness. Your words and actions have to match. That builds inner harmony and reflects truth.
What about avoiding fellowship with evildoers? That sounds a bit judgmental.
It needs careful understanding. It's about wisely choosing your influences. While we're called to love everyone, constantly associating with people engaged in destructive patterns or who pull you away from your spiritual path can hinder your own progress.
But it says pray for them too.
Exactly. It's not condemnation. It's avoiding negative influence while still holding compassion and praying for their transformation, recognizing their potential too. All these ethical behaviors directly contribute to that purity of heart needed for certitude. They align your outer life with the inner principles you're trying to embody. They make the ground fertile for truth.
And this inner change, fueled by how you act, it's not just for you, is it? It seems to connect to something much bigger. Baha'u'lláh urges, in another tablet, "O you, the beloved of the one true God, pass beyond the narrow retreats of your evil, and advance into the vast immensity of the realm of God, and abide ye in the meads of sanctity and of detachment, that the fragrance of your deeds may lead the whole of mankind to the ocean of God's unfading glory.
It sounds like your personal journey ripples outwards.
It absolutely does. That passage captures it beautifully. Those narrow retreats of your evil, that's the ego, self-centeredness, prejudice, anger, all the stuff that limits our vision and potential, our internal prisons.
Right.
To pass beyond them is to transcend those limits through purification, self-awareness, discipline, then advance into the vast immensity of the realm of God that's entering a state of spiritual freedom, boundless love, expanded consciousness. Seeing things from a divine perspective, not just a limited human one. It's liberation into a bigger reality where everything speaks of God.
Abide ye in the meads of sanctity and of detachment. It's a continuous state. Yes, dwelling in spiritual purity and freedom from those worldly attachments, cultivating that inner peace. And what's really fascinating, really inspiring, is the direct link to uplifting everyone else.
That the fragrance of your deeds may lead the whole of mankind.
Exactly. It suggests that the sincere actions and the transformed character of someone with certitude give off this spiritual influence, this energy. Like a beautiful scent attracts people, deeds born of sanctity and detachment draw others towards spiritual truth, towards God.
So your personal growth helps humanity's growth.
It contributes directly. It's not isolated. Your individual certitude becomes a light, showing the way for others, making God's reality more accessible, more desirable, just through the authentic example of your life. The vision of certitude, perceiving divine revelation everywhere.
That's an amazing connection between individual transformation and collective impact. Okay, now let's explore this profound shift in perception that comes with certitude. It's not just what you believe or do, but fundamentally how you see the world, like your vision gets rewired.
A rewiring. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
The sources describe this so vividly. Bahá'u'lláh says, the one with certitude, gazing with the eye of God, he will perceive within every atom a door that leadeth him to the stations of absolute certitude. Every atom.
Yeah.
Each and everything, however small, will be to him a revelation, leading him to his beloved him. He will discriminate between truth and falsehood, even as he doth distinguish the sun from shadow. This sounds like a total overhaul of how you experience reality, seeing the divine literally everywhere.
It is a fundamental, breathtaking shift in consciousness. Gazing with the eye of God, it's not a physical eye, obviously. It's spiritual perception, seeing beyond the surface. Viewing the world through the lens of divine purpose, unity, wisdom, not just through ego or material limits.
And perceiving in every atom a door.
It highlights God's presence within all creation. Even the tiniest particle, a grain of sand, a leaf, an electron, holds profound spiritual truths. It's a gateway to understanding God's reality more deeply.
Yeah.
The whole universe becomes this tapestry of divine signs.
So each and everything will be to him a revelation.
Exactly. Daily life transforms from mundane to miraculous. A sunset, a flower, the pattern on a snowflake, even just a simple interaction with someone. They all become lessons, communications from the divine, guiding you closer to your spiritual source, your beloved God.
And that helps discriminate truth from falsehood, like sun from shadow.
Yes, it's not just intellectual discernment, it's intuitive spiritual clarity. Just like you instantly know sunlight from shadow, the person with certitude instinctively senses divine truth amidst confusion or deception. It's like a spiritual radar operating on a higher frequency, seeing through the veils.
So the material world isn't separate from the spiritual.
It becomes its manifestation, a veil for deeper realities. Everything points back to the divine. It's like living in constant awe, every moment a potential lesson.
And this vision isn't just for nature, it extends to humanity itself. Baha'u'lláh emphasizes this in the Kitab-i-Iqan, how resplendent the luminaries of knowledge that shine in an atom. To a supreme degree is this true of man, who hath been invested with the robe of such gifts. How vast the oceans of wisdom that surge within a drop, and even more directly. For in him are potentially revealed all the attributes and names of God to a degree that no other created being has excelled or surpassed. That puts humanity in a really unique spot in this divine picture.
It's a truly awe-inspiring idea, central to the Baha'i view of human nature. That idea that in him, man, are potentially revealed all the attributes and names of God. It means we're essentially microcosms of the divine. We hold potentially every divine quality, love, mercy, justice, knowledge, wisdom, creativity, just on a finite human scale.
Those are the gifts and oceans of wisdom.
Yes. Recognizing this inherent nobility, this divine potential within yourself is foundational to certitude. It gives you purpose, dignity, a deeper sense of your spiritual reality and responsibility.
And seeing it in others.
That transforms everything. You look beyond the surface differences, flaws, circumstances, and you recognize that spark of the divine, the reflection of God's attributes, in every single person.
That must foster incredible love and respect.
It does. Unconditional love, profound respect, and a real desire to help others realize their own hidden spiritual capacities. For you, the listener, this is incredibly liberating. It changes how you see yourself, not just flaws, but immense potential. And it changes how you see others, promoting empathy, unity, seeing everyone on a shared spiritual journey. It dissolves those artificial barriers we build.
It would certainly cultivate patience and forgiveness.
Deeply. And an appreciation for the intrinsic worth of every soul.
This heightened perception also gives this amazing ability to see divine signs amidst all the noise of human life. Bahá'u'lláh uses this beautiful analogy. The righteousness of God, were he that treadeth the path of guidance, he will inhale at a distance of 1,000 leagues the fragrance of God. He will likewise clearly distinguish all the signs of God from the doings, words, and ways of men, even as the jeweler knoweth the gem from the stone.
The jeweler analogy really hits home.
It's perfect, isn't it? It speaks to an acquired skill, an intuitive grasp that goes beyond just looking. A jeweler, through training and experience, instantly knows a real gem from a pebble.
Right.
In the same way, someone with certitude develops this sharp spiritual sensitivity. They can clearly distinguish all the signs of God, the real truths, the divine guidance, the authentic principles, from the doings, words, and ways of men.
So they aren't easily fooled by rhetoric or trends. Exactly. They're not swayed by human opinions, passing fads, even well-meaning but misguided actions. They see the underlying spiritual reality, even when it's hidden by complexity or self-interest, like seeing through veneer to the real wood.
And inhale the fragrance of God from far away.
That's such a poetic way to describe this intuitive spiritual wisdom. It suggests the seeker becomes so tuned in to the divine, they can sense its presence, its influence, from a distance, recognizing its essence even before it's fully obvious or explained. It's a deep resonance, a knowing in the heart that comes before analysis.
So it's wisdom that transcends the superficial.
Yes, navigating the world with clarity, discerning truth not just with logic, but with this awakened spiritual perception, an internal compass always pointing to divine reality, cutting through the noise to focus on what lasts.
And the manifestations of God seem absolutely central to this whole vision, acting as the key almost.
They are pivotal.
Bahá'u'lláh says, "He will discover in all things the mysteries of divine revelation and the evidences of an everlasting manifestation. And then no sign can indicate his presence or his absence. By a word of his command, all that are in heaven and on earth have come into being. All things, in their inmost reality, testify to the revelation of the names and attributes of God within them." It really ties the transcendent God to the world we see.
It does, beautifully. It connects the huge scale of creation with the specific role of these divine messengers. The manifestations, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, the Bab, Baha'u'lláh, they aren't God incarnate, but perfect mirrors reflecting God's attributes and perfections to us. They're the supreme educators for humanity in each era.
So recognizing them is key.
Absolutely. Because through them, we get access to the essence of divine revelation. When someone with certitude recognizes these manifestations, it unlocks the ability to see divine revelation in everything.
How does that work?
Well, if God's attributes are fully reflected in these perfect mirrors, and if all things testify to the revelation of the names and attributes of God within them, then understanding the manifestations becomes the code, the key to reading the entire universe as God's book of signs.
But it also says God is beyond presence or absence.
Right, he's utterly transcendent, beyond our grasp in his essence. So how do we perceive him? Through his signs, through nature, through the human soul, and supremely through his manifestations. They are the channels, the educators, revealing God's will and purpose progressively, age after age.
So certitude helps you understand that ongoing divine guidance throughout history, progressive revelation.
Exactly. It anchors that understanding. You see the divine hand in every era.
And as we wrap up the section, it's clear this isn't just intellectual. It's described as almost artistic, a sublime experience, Baha'u'lláh calls it. "Such are the strains of celestial melody which the immortal bird of heaven poureth out, that thou mayest tread the path of divine knowledge and wisdom." It sounds like music for the soul.
It is a profound spiritual harmony. That celestial melody, it's a beautiful metaphor for the deep insights, the inner peace and truth that certitude brings. Not literal sound, but that profound connection and understanding resonating inside you.
The joy of recognizing truth.
Yes, feeling aligned with divine reality and purpose. And it's poured out by the immortal bird of heaven, maybe the Holy Spirit, or the manifestation constantly guiding and inspiring us with new revelations.
And this melody helps you tread the path of divine knowledge and wisdom.
Right. The insights aren't just for contemplating. They're practical guides for living. An internal compass. They light the path forward, give clear direction, help you act wisely. It's a constant source of inspiration and spiritual fuel, pushing you forward, deepening your perception, solidifying your certainty in God's plan. It's the inner song of truth guiding every step. The fruits of certitude, transformation, and attainment in daily life.
What a beautiful image, that inner melody guiding you. Okay, so we've defined certitude, we've looked at the path demanding but transformative, and we've glimpsed the incredible shift in perception it brings. Now, this is where it gets really compelling. How does all this actually play out in our lived experience? The practical application, the ultimate fulfillment of certitude in daily life.
Yeah, the payoff, so to speak.
We mentioned Abdu'l-Bahá's statement earlier. Now that thou hast quaffed from the wellspring of certitude, thou wilt undoubtedly reach the truth of certitude, become the embodiment of endless bounties. That strongly suggests certitude isn't just internal, it produces outward effects. It makes us channels for goodness.
That's absolutely the core idea there. Becoming an embodiment of endless bounties means the virtues, the qualities, the divine attributes you come to understand and deeply believe. Through certitude, they aren't just concepts anymore. They become manifest in who you are and what you do.
So your character changes.
Deeply. It gets imbued with love, kindness, wisdom, justice, patience, resilience, generosity. And these aren't just occasional acts. They become consistent expressions of your being, flowing naturally from that inner state.
What might that look like in practice?
Well, it could be someone who stays calm and wise in a crisis, radiating peace and offering clear insight. Or someone unwavering in their commitment to justice, even when it's hard or unpopular. Or just boundless compassion, seeing the divine potential in everyone, always willing to serve.
So it has a real impact on the world around them.
Profoundly. Not through ego, but through the sheer force of their virtues and the clarity of their purpose. Their presence itself becomes inspiring, a blessing, attracting good, fostering unity, lifting the spiritual atmosphere. Certitude isn't just inner conviction. It's a powerful catalyst for outward, tangible, positive change. It makes you a force for good.
And speaking of profound impact, the writings talk about an ultimate spiritual attainment that seems to go beyond our usual ideas of life and death. Baha'u'lláh reveals, "Therefore, whosoever hath recognized and attained unto the presence of these glorious, these resplendent and most excellent luminaries, hath verily attained unto the presence of God himself, and entered the city of eternal and immortal life." That feels like a real aha moment, attaining this now, not just after death.
It truly is one of the most profound and liberating insights. Those luminaries, again, are the manifestations of God, reflecting divine perfection. Recognizing and truly connecting with them is described as being equivalent to attaining the presence of God.
Because God himself is unknowable in essence.
Exactly. He's transcendent, beyond our grasp. He reveals himself through these chosen figures, their teachings, their lives, their power. So genuinely recognizing and embracing the messenger for the age connects you to the heart of God's revelation, puts you in direct relationship with the divine will.
And that means entering the city of eternal and immortal life now.
That's the astounding implication. It's not about physical immortality. It's spiritual immortality, a state of being totally detached from fleeting worldly worries, absorbed in divine reality, experiencing profound, eternal spiritual vitality, peace, and joy right now.
Liberation from ego and fear of death.
Yes, stepping into a boundless spiritual life that transcends time and space. For you, the listener, this is an incredible shift. Spiritual attainment isn't something you wait for. It's a current reality, available through certitude, impacting every moment. It changes what it means to be truly alive.
And as we think about certitude's power for an individual, the writings connect it beautifully to our responsibility for the next generation. Abdu'l-Bahá says, "Let them strive by day and by night to establish within their children faith and certitude, the fear of God, the love of the beloved of the worlds, and all good works." It emphasizes the long-term intergenerational value.
This is such a crucial call to action for parents, for educators. It stresses that certitude isn't just a private journey or possession. It's a spiritual legacy we need to consciously cultivate and pass on.
Why is it so vital for children?
because establishing faith and certitude gives them that unshakable foundation for navigating a complex, often confusing world. It gives them an inner compass, a moral and spiritual anchor to guide them through life challenges and temptations. It's more than just teaching religious facts. It's instilling deep personal conviction and trust in divine principles.
Especially important today with so much information and conflicting values.
Incredibly so. And it's coupled with the fear of God, meaning reverence, awe, respect for divine laws, not terror, and the love of the beloved of the world, love for God and through him, for all humanity and creation. It fosters this deep spiritual consciousness early on.
And all good work shows it's practical.
Exactly. It's not just belief. It's translating belief into ethical, compassionate, constructive action. So how do parents or educators do this?
Good question.
By living lives of integrity themselves, first and foremost. By seeking truth openly, encouraging questions and spiritual conversations, showing consistent love and justice, being living examples. It's about creating an environment where spiritual insights can be explored, understood, and experienced, not just learned intellectually. Nurturing the very seeds of certitude.
So the impact continues, uplifting individuals, communities, future societies.
Exactly. Building a more enlightened world, generation by generation. Outro.
Wow, what a truly, truly illuminating deep dive we've had today into this profound virtue of certitude.
It really covered a lot of ground.
We started by defining it that deep, unwavering certainty, but definitely not blind faith. Instead, a powerful conviction grounded in evidence, spiritual insight, transformative experience.
That distinction is key.
Then we journeyed into the path that rigorous inner purification, the ethical conduct needed, detachment, humility, mindful speech, compassionate action.
A demanding but rewarding path.
And we saw how that leads to this incredible shift in perception, gazing with the eye of God, seeing divine revelation in every atom, every person, every event.
Transforming how you see everything.
And finally, those amazing fruits of certitude, becoming an embodiment of endless bounties, attaining eternal life right here, right now, and the responsibility to pass this legacy to future generations.
It's clear, isn't it, that certitude is far from static. It's an active, ongoing process, a continuous cultivation and application in our daily lives.
Yeah.
It's a divine gift, absolutely, but one that really requires our conscious engagement, our effort, our sincere application. It's about constantly aligning ourselves with truth and letting that truth transform every part of us, making us living examples of its power.
That's a powerful reminder. So what does this all mean for you as you move forward from this deep dive? Maybe consider how even the smallest details of your day could be, as these writings suggest, a revelation leading you to your beloved. If you just try viewing them with that eye of God, that certitude can open. What might you discover just by looking a little closer?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive and for entrusting us with such valuable source material to explore.
Yes, thank you. Join us next week for more devotional deep dives, where we'll be turning our attention to another profound virtue, charity. Until then, keep digging deeper into the truths that transform.